Not only did the telegraph change the world with its modern form of long-distance communication, it also changed the Civil War by causing a shift in power and advantages. Before the telegraph, sending letters and traveling a great distance to meet someone was too time-consuming, and information wasn't always accurate and up-to-date, and Samuel Morse learned this the hard way. In 1818, Morse married his first wife, Lucretia Walker. While he was in Washington, D.C., working on a portrait for Lafayette, he received a letter from his father saying that his wife was very ill after giving birth to their third child. Samuel quickly raced back home in order to be with his wife during her final days. However, when he returned home, he found out his wife was not only dead, but she'd already been buried. Morse knew he could have been there for her when she needed him most if there was a faster way to communicate. He also knew he was the one to make this change. In 1832, Samuel Morse was on a trip returning from Europe. On this voyage, Morse met Charles Thomas Jackson, an eccentric doctor and inventor. Here, they discussed electromagnetism, and Jackson informed Morse that an electric impulse could be carried along a very long wire. During this trip, Morse discovered the idea of using electricity to communicate a long distance. So once Samuel Morse was able to understand how Michael Faraday's recently invented electromagnet functioned, Morse believed there's a possibility sending a message over wire could be the next form of long-distance communication. After 10 plus years, Morse finally was able to send the first telegraph message on May 24, 1844, saying, "What hath God wrought?" This message will change the world as we know it, and also it'll go on to change the Civil War.
Samuel F.B. Morse completed a working version of the electrical recording telegraph in 1837. Eventually, transcontinental telegraph lines were established for worldwide communication. In 1872, the last country to become connected by telegraph was Australia, which then made it possible for news to be spread worldwide. One of the most common uses for telegraphs in the United States was for the railroad lines. Telegraphy made it possible to know when trains were leaving and when they should be expected to arrive, which in turn streamlined the railroad industry. Additionally, the military also utilized telegraph machines in much of its day-to-day communication. Initially, the cost to send each message was expensive, which meant sending personal messages by telegraph was not a common luxury that everyone had. However, the price did drop and the delivery rate of the messages also became more stable as advancements were made. Before the outbreak of the Civil War, there were three major companies in operation. These companies were the American Telegraph Company, the Western Union Telegraph Company, and the Southwestern Telegraph Company. The American Telegraph Company's lines occupied the entire region east of the Hudson River and ran along the Atlantic coast down to the Gulf of Mexico. Cities were connected from Newfoundland to New Orleans. From this source, the American Telegraph Company's lines branched west to cities like Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and Cincinnati.
President Abraham Lincoln had a great impact on the telegraph during the Civil War. Telegraph lines were strung up as soon as an army arrived at a location, and Union soldiers eventually grew adept to putting up telegraph lines. It allowed him to transfer information almost instantly. With instant communication, generals could come up with new strategies quickly, instead of having to wait several days for letters to travel by mailman. This way, war generals could keep tabs of what was going on during the war. Lincoln would take command of the battlefronts through the telegraph by sending crucial messages many hours a day. Throughout the history of all battles, such a form of communication never existed, so leaders such as Lincoln took advantage of this device to quickly inform field commanders. His communication through the telegraph was a turning point for the Civil War. It extremely benefited the North to have a higher chance winning the Civil War. Communication was key in this war, and if it was done quicker, more enhanced plans and strategies could be made to attack and counter the South. Lincoln used this very wisely and often. He wanted to win this war and knew he could with a very helpful device by his side. Secretary of War Edwin M. Stanton provided Lincoln with a room where he can focus his time on the telegraph. He sent and received messages through the telegraph in peace and quiet. The telegraph room allowed him to take his time and change strategies in the war. Lincoln took advantage of the telegraph room as it encouraged him to greatly focus on the war. The telegraph became a tool of his leadership and helped win the Civil War.
The telegraph allowed the North to turn over lost battles against the South. General Joseph Hooker had wanted to siege Richmond. However, Lincoln's secret weapon could transfer messages nearly instantly. The telegraph allowed Lincoln's tactic of destroying the Confederate army instead to become a systematic attack on the enemy's will to fight. In the Battle of Gettysburg, Lincoln's strategy came into effect. Lee was very cocky about his previous victories against the North. He wanted to launch an all-out attack on the Union forces to destroy them once and for all. Although the battle took 3 days to complete, the Union had a huge victory. They had lost only 23,000 men. However, the Confederates lost 28,000, over a third of Lee's army. As a result, Lee's grief motivated him to resign when President Davis